Hi everyone, so I think this is going to be a relatively short video and it is about 2 weeks late, but I wanted to touch on the really tragic death of Tiptoe and the effect that I've seen that having on the community, and also kind of tie that in with a quick video on my experience of Samhain this year, because I wanted to make good on that kind of semi-promise that I made in my autumn equinox video to kind of pick back up the Wheel of the Year kind of vlog videos, just where I might make a relatively short video maybe every time a Sabbat comes around, just to kind of have a little chat about my experience of it this time around and any new thoughts or feelings that I have on that time of year and on my celebration of it and so on and so forth. So I'm going to start with Tiptoe because I just felt like, I mean, sadly, I actually was not ever a big follower of Tiptoe videos because I think I joined the community at kind of the cusp of her becoming a little less active in the community, and I know she started making videos again later on, but there was kind of a gap during the period when I was maybe the most active, watching the most videos and starting to make videos of my own. So while I had seen a couple of her videos and I was aware of her, she was not a figure that I was actually very familiar with. And so I feel like part of the reason I haven't made a video until now about her death was because I felt a little bit like I'm really just piggybacking on the grief of the rest of the community. It just hasn't affected me in the same way because, like I say, sadly, I am not actually that familiar with her videos. I actually really do intend on going back and watching some more. I've watched a couple since then, and I do want to kind of go back and imbibe as much of her material as I can, because it's one of those things where once you experience that kind of loss of somebody, it really makes you realise like, oh, I wasn't even really aware of the fact that I wasn't watching her videos, and it's made me want to take in what she was putting out there and the really great contribution that she made to the community, which, you know, I was aware of. I was definitely aware of her as a major figure in the community. I knew her name. I knew that a lot of people loved and watched her videos. And I just feel like it's a mark of respect on my part to maybe have a look at some of her videos, some more of her videos, and just pay respect to, like I say, that great impact that she had. But the greatest impact it had personally on me then was really just watching the outpouring of grief and love across the community in all of those people who had watched and loved her videos and felt close to her for many, many years. And that was really, really moving. I have to say, it's really reminded me of all the reasons that I love this community and just how close-knit and supportive and loving it really is. I have always included YouTube videos as part of the materials that I research in my research of the Morrigan and the Dark Goddess in my academic study. And every time I give a paper, an academic paper on whatever topic it is I'm talking about, and I've talked about YouTube videos or the YouTube community, I always get questions about the nature of the community, about the kinds of comments on videos, and people are always expecting hatred and drama. They're always expecting fighting, they're always expecting a lot of negative comments, and I'm always, every single time I get one of those questions and answer it at a conference or whatever, I always am just filled with this gratitude and this sense of just how unusual and amazing it is that our community is actually so positive, that we actually really do hold each other up. And, you know, as I've said to people many times, you know, of course we do get the odd negative comment, especially anyone whose videos are being watched by more than a couple hundred people. You're definitely going to get your trolls, you're definitely going to get people who are just spamming your videos, but that is mostly what it is. It's just spam. It's people who are entering the community from outside of it, spamming the videos with kind of alt-right, anti-left-wing, anti-feminist, Christian, sometimes like fundamentalist, Bible-bashing Christian type stuff that's kind of telling us that we're going to hell and that kind of stuff. And that's really the guts of the negativity that we see. And the amount of drama and negative drama that we see across the community is really negligible. And I think it's really unique, and it's partly, I think, because we are a relatively small community, so we all kind of feel like we know each other, and I think people tend to be kinder when they know one another. But I think yeah, it's just, yeah, seeing how everyone responded to that great tragedy and how supportive everyone was being to the family, and just the depth of everyone's grief And it made me think about, you know, Goddess forbid, if another member of the community who I was particularly familiar with did pass away, it made me really tap into the kind of grief that I would experience. And it was, you know, really, I completely understand and empathise with the level of grief that people are feeling, even if they never actually met Tiptoe Chick in person. And it just, yeah, so I've just been feeling a lot of gratitude for the level of kind of closeness and bonding that we experience in this community, despite the fact that many of us, or most of us, the vast majority of us have never met in person, or maybe even never talked one-on-one, even online. There is still this great sense of support and community, and that we're all contributing to this very positive, very nurturing environment, and that is just such a blessing and such a positive thing. And I just really wanted to, I guess, express my deep condolences to anyone watching this video who felt in any way connected to Tiptoe Chick, who watched her videos, who actually knew her on a personal level, who just felt touched and just touched by the grief of this tragedy. I just really wanted to emphasize that and just say, yeah, I'm just completely awash with this sense, like I say, of grief, but of love, and a deep sense of gratitude across the community for everything that she has offered. So that kind of really coloured sound this year, didn't it? It really was the major event that kind of overshadowed, I think, a lot of our experiences or feelings or practices around Samhain. And yeah, at my own Samhain ritual, like I said, although I was not particularly familiar or bonded with Tiptoe Chick, I wasn't particularly familiar with her videos, she was absolutely still somebody that I thought of during my Samhain ritual. And yeah, finding out on the eve of my 30th birthday, because I was born on the 31st, it was just such a strange, it created a very strange atmosphere, I think. So Samhain this year was a lot closer to grief and death, I think, than it normally is. I think for many of us in this community, I think we were a lot more, you know, normally we think about Samhain in relation to death in maybe a slightly more abstract way. If we've lost people relatively recently, then of course it becomes a little bit more close to home. But for the vast majority of the time, hopefully, we are thinking about death and loss and grief and remembering our ancestors and remembering the people who have passed on in a more abstract way, in a more sort of, oh yes, it's the dark time of year, we're entering the dark of the year, and this is a time when we have our remembrances, this is a time when we remember our own mortality, and just the transient nature of our existence here on Earth. But this year, obviously, it's really just felt so much more real. So for me, it feels a little gauche in a way to move on from all that grief and that serious loss onto my own kind of personal thoughts and experiences at Samhain that don't involve Tiptoe Chick. But as I've said, for me, it is that slight bit of a remove. So it wasn't as much of a direct experience for me as it has been for many of you. But yeah, but this Samhain for me also has been a very strange time and liminal and transitional time, and because I was turning 30, and I have had a bit of a bad habit of getting really wrapped up in turning new ages. I remember when I was turning 20 that I had this big whole thing about not being a teenager anymore and what I had achieved and not achieved while being a teenager, and I had a list of things I wanted to do before I turned 20. And I had a similar list before I turned 30, and they were much, much bigger things. The list of things before I turned 20 were really much more minor and a lot more lighthearted. This time around it was things like finishing a draft of a novel, recording demos of a couple of songs, and running a 10k. And I managed to achieve all three of those things. I had originally hoped to get my driver's license as well, but there was just no way in the end that was going to happen. It just that the time period was just too short for that to happen, and I'm not even sure that I'm going to do it in the UK. I might do it in Ireland, so that kind of went by the wayside. But it was a lot of milestones. I was setting with myself a lot of milestones, a lot of sort of big I have achieved things to kind of calm myself about turning 30, which may not have been the best way to deal with the fact that I tend to freak out about the numbers, because of course the number is just a number. It doesn't really mean anything, but it is a time when we remember and we become really particularly aware of what we have achieved and how happy we are with the level of what we have achieved in the various areas of our lives. And of course there are areas of my life that I can't control, that I can't do anything about, that I'm not in the place where I would hope that I am. There's nothing immediate that I can do about it, and so I suppose I was kind of trying to control the areas that I could. And yeah, it might have been healthier for me to just not do that and just to say to myself, I'll set a goal for another time when I'm not turning 30. I think it definitely put a lot of pressure on me, so I would not necessarily recommend to anybody that you do that. But it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It has left me with a feeling that I will look back on my 20s and what I managed to achieve coming up to my 30th birthday, and I will be very proud of that. I'll be proud of the way that I was able to push myself and get things done. And that is partly because I have a weird kind of dual thing of being, you know, tending to push myself too hard, but also tending to not be good at finishing things and backing off things when they're kind of nearly done but not quite done, and I kind of get a bit disillusioned or a bit kind of freaked out, and then I kind of stop. So I think in a way setting those goals was a positive thing. So if you are the kind of person who does that as well, sometimes just pushing yourself to finish things, just to get things done and out there, even if they're not perfect, can actually be a really positive thing. So that was a big thing for me, and that was a big positive aspect of what I was doing at turning that age. But I would be curious to know about you guys. What are your experiences of turning big ages? Do you make a big deal of it, and how do you deal with it if your brain does just latch onto it and make a big thing out of it? But overall, I think I'm still a little bit shell-shocked after everything that's happened over the past couple of months, because I have been so busy, because I've been just filling my life with so much stuff, trying to get so much done. And then, like I say, Samhain this year ended up being just a particularly poignant and intense time. So I'm still feeling a little bit shell-shocked. I had the worst period of mental health immediately afterwards, which is another reason why I kind of would emphasize that doing what I did is probably not the best idea, because I was completely burned out and probably enjoyed the actual celebrations that I organized a little bit less. Sorry, I seem to be losing my voice a little bit today. I'm not sure if that's just because I'm just in from a run, or because I haven't been talking at all today and I didn't warm my voice up. Yeah, but the actual couple of days when I kind of celebrated my birthday and experienced that Samhain moment, which for me are obviously intertwined. I can't separate Samhain from my birthday, and maybe in a way that has made my attachment to the idea of turning a new age particularly strong and particularly kind of stressful, because it is associated with Samhain. It is associated with the idea of death before regeneration, and I think I feel more the death of my old age than I feel the birth of the new one, and that might actually very well be associated with the time of year that I am born. That I was born. I was supposed to be born in December. If I'd been born in December, maybe I'd be more looking towards the new year and it might seem like a more positive thing, but I think the older I've gotten, as much as I've always loved birthday celebrations and Christmas and all of the kind of different family celebrations that we have, I've always loved those because my family are big into them. There's always, I think the older I've gotten, that the more there's been this sense that my birthday is actually a strange time when I tend to feel weird, that changing light doesn't help and all of that. And yeah, it being connected to Samhain makes it a little odd, makes it a little strange, and I think I have a double whammy experience of feeling connected to my own mortality and transient nature, the transience of my being and my personhood at this time. So I think that's kind of really all I wanted to say. I just wanted to really just connect, just stop by, make a video, acknowledge, like I say, the really tragic death of Tiptoe Chick, and express my condolences to those of you who have really been touched by that and have really been affected by that, and express my gratitude to her for all that she has provided to the community, because it's been so evident to me just from everyone's responses, and just put out some love and grief of my own, really. And then, like I say, just kind of make a quick video just talking a little bit about my experience of Samhain this year, which, like I say, is always a strange one. I am looking forward to midwinter. I have, ever since moving to Scotland, winter has become harder for me. I discovered that I actually do have a little touch of seasonal affective disorder. I've been doing what I can to deal with that. I bought myself a sunrise alarm clock lamp thing, and I tend to have that on in the mornings. I might even start putting it on in the evenings a bit as well, to kind of tell my body like it's okay, it's still daytime. So winter has become a tougher time for me, just purely because of that, because it's so dark up here. Like it's already sunset just after 4 p.m. and we've got like what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, oh I can't even, 5 weeks I think left until midwinter. So it gets very dark. And we've got a beautiful sunny day today. We've been very lucky that we've had some sunny weather, so that helps. But yeah, I am looking forward to midwinter, because my midwinter celebration for me, the winter solstice, has always been one of my favorites. It is such a big one. It's it's one of such importance to me. I'm going to make an effort to bring home some of my altar materials this year, because I've been at home in Dublin for the solstice, I think every year since I moved to Edinburgh, and then I end up not having my altar anymore, which has really affected me. I really miss having a really decent, solid midwinter celebration ritual. So I might kind of, if you remember, if you were watching me back in 2015, I think the summer of 2015, before I moved over to Edinburgh, you'll have seen my little witchy room that I had when I lived with my parents for 6 months. My dad did a little bit of work on the shed in the garden, and it was a little kind of living space for me to get away from my parents. I mean, they had always planned on doing that anyway, on gradually turning it into a bit more of a living space than just a shed. So that is still there. They don't use it a lot. So I can probably set up camp there again. So I'm considering doing that and bringing over some stuff, because I'm feeling such a strong need for a really kind of banging midwinter this year. Like I really need that kind of celebration of the return of the sun this year. I can feel it. Like I definitely need to kind of ring in my 30s with a really, really strong kind of New Year vibe and return of the sun vibe. And I don't know if you are feeling the same for whatever reason is going on in your life, but yeah, I'm looking forward to midwinter. So yeah, this has been longer than I anticipated, because that is always how it goes, isn't it? But like I say, I think I'm going to be making another video soon, because I have an idea in mind, and hopefully getting back into the swing of things. I'm hoping to, do you know what? I can't actually say that on video yet, because I haven't talked to the people who I need to talk to, never mind, but I am hoping to lighten my load next semester. So hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to be on your orga and talk to you, and I'm really feeling called to interact more with the community. I think many people have felt that this call back to the community, back into the arms of the community, and I think if that's one really positive thing that has come out of this tragedy, is a kind of renewed sense of community and interconnectedness and love and support, and that is really wonderful to see.